Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Midweek Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. Thank you for joining us for this special live broadcast here, going out live on 21stcenturywire.com, also at Rumble, YouTube, BitChute Live as well, and also Facebook Live, and maybe a couple of other platforms, Twitter, X. We're going out on X as well, everybody on that platform. And yeah, we got a lot to talk about, big breaking story. I left speechless like so many other smart pundits and informed geopolitical analysts and people who've been, following the Middle East closely for the last decade or so, are witnessing how else can we describe it? The Neocon exhibitionism of Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia. He has really jumped the shark this week, and probably the most noteworthy of all is the endorsement of Al-Qaeda in Syria. Donald Trump has endorsed the founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria, former deputy leader of ISIS under al-Baghdadi. So Trump has just done this in Saudi Arabia. It's pretty shameful, pretty shocking. And I get the feeling, at least I get the impression, that he doesn't even know what he just did, because he's that clueless, and so are the people around him. Either that, or they're just so corrupt. And this is what we're looking at. This is like the final humiliation of the United States of America. Thank you, Donald Trump. So we'll try to unpack this. And we'll try to keep this conversation as on point as possible. We've got a lot of facts to break down, of course, and serious discussion. Obviously, it's crazy. We'll try to unpack it. This has just happened in the last 24 hours. Let me bring on to the program our colleague. He is a contributor at 21stcenturywire.com. His name is Freddie Ponton. He's joining us right now on the live link. Freddie, how are you?
I'm very good, Patrick. It's good to be here.
It's good to be with you as well, Freddie. And let me just a note on the audio. I think we're not getting your mic in, so make sure your mic is engaged. We just want to make sure your audio is engaged on that. But while Freddie's getting set up there, we'll bring on to the screen. We'll try to bring on just kind of the latest on this, and it's pretty unbelievable. So here are the scenes from the Middle East. We'll bring it up on stage here.
1 2 1 2. Is it better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. And we'll try to bring up on screen. This is Donald Trump here, basically after he's just met al-Sharar, aka Jolani. Pretty crazy. So here's the photo here. And we've got our colleague Kareem has posted this as well. And so we'll bring that up on screen. Pretty unbelievable. Trump is in Riyadh meeting the, quote, interim, quote, president, Ahmed al-Sharar al-Jilani, former Al-Qaeda leader, and ISIS emir, the kosher caliph himself, Jolani. So this is the man whose militancy once killed U.S. troops in Iraq. Of course, he's got a bounty on his head with the U.S. Justice Department, and who oversaw Syria's bloodiest sectarian massacre. And the massacres continue until today. In fact, as we speak, the celebrations in Syria by the militants, basically Jolani's people celebrating and attacking Christians, Alawites across the country, because they feel like Trump has given them the green light. He's given them the carte blanche, basically, to do whatever they want. So pretty incredible. And myself, I warned about this. In fact, here's what I tweeted out early in the week. A word of advice to Donald Trump. Mr. President, during your summit in Saudi Arabia this week, we seriously hope that you will not be shaking hands with the new Syrian, quote, president, Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorist leader, al-Jilani, a.k.a. Ahmed al-Sharar. Remember that our DOJ had placed a bounty on his head, a bounty on this head-chopping criminal for murdering Druze in Syria, murdering Americans, killing Christians, Alawites, Sunnis and Shiites alike. There's nobody that this head chopper did not kill, basically. So pretty incredible resume. Pretty incredible resume, I would say. And it happened. Donald Trump went and jumped the shark on this. Unfortunately, couldn't help himself. He not only endorsed Al-Jilani, but he gave him this kind of, I don't know, this kind of bio that Trump, I mean, I have this pretty incredible clip here. They got him on a sort of impromptu mic here. This is on the Rapid Response propaganda account, for Rapid Response 47. This is Trump's propaganda account, and one of them anyway. And here's what he had to say. Let's we'll try to bring this clip up here. Listen to this. This is what he said about the leader of Al-Qaeda. This is a terrorist, okay, wanted by the U.S. government. Trump has just endorsed him. Unbelievable. And he's calling him a great guy. He's saying he's very attractive. This is a terrorist. This is the head of the founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria, Jabhat al-Nusra, deputy head of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi of ISIS, who was in Kombucha in Iraq and magically was released 2 weeks before the so-called, quote, revolution in Syria. Okay. And so here's Trump bigging up this terrorist. I mean, Trump has said and done some crazy things, okay? And of course, his grasp of geopolitics is suspect. I think we all can agree. That's always been an issue with Trump. But this is taking things, the ignorance here is really taking things to a whole new level. Let's go ahead and watch this.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Right. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass, very strong pass fighter.
Is that wording?
But he's got a real shot at pulling it together.
How did you find the Syrian?
So Trump's talking about this guy's going to bring give Syria a chance at greatness. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. He's got a strong past. Strong past. Strong past right there. This is from the United States Department of Justice. $10 million bounty on this maniac. And Trump saying he's got a strong past. I really don't know what to say. Quite frankly, I really don't know what to say. This is just another level here. And most of the people, especially in Trump's orbit, are completely clueless about this guy. Freddie, I've got the clip here, which we'll also play. And this is one of the speeches Trump gave. Gosh, I mean, there's just so many of these. Obviously, this speech that was written for Trump, but we'll play it, and you can see the scene here and sort of the people. Oh my gosh, this is something. This is something. Hold on, let's bring this up for a moment. We'll bring this up on stage here. Just one moment. Okay, this is this. Right. Let's take a look at this. Okay, here we go. This is one of the clips from this.
Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that. And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal
So he's saying that the new Middle East isn't because we don't want people bombing each other. This is after the United States spent 6 weeks, 7 weeks bombing Yemen, the neighbor of Saudi Arabia, bombing Yemen, and then having to surrender because they lost too many Reaper drones and dumping F-18 Hornets off the side of the Harry S. Truman. Thank you, Pete Hegseth. So this, and the United States paid or basically supplied all the weapons for Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen for 9 years. Or 7.5 years. They from the March 2015 until I think 2022. I think Saudi stopped attacking Yemen at that point. So what the hell is he talking about, Freddie? I mean, the world that we're living in, it seems to be very different than the world Donald Trump lives in, or this speech is just completely meaningless. Like there's just no point. It's just stupid. I honestly, I am so at my wit's end trying to understand what he's talking about, what they're up to here. Freddie, go ahead. What do you make of all this?
Well, I think you're amongst many, like myself, that are not, I would say, confused about what has been said. I think it's just the contents of his speech is literally hard to listen, because there's a lot of fabrications of fact, and a lot of things that he said is simply untrue. So you can spend an hour trying to decipher where is he getting at. Is there a point, actually? Because that's the things when you listen to the speech, you're looking for a point. Is he actually making a point? And all the valid point that he could have made, he just simply didn't make it. So he went around, on a kind of a lethargy, for an hour, literally saying very little, just basically admiring and sending a lot of compliment to Saudi Arabia and to the Middle East, which seems to have become his new favorite toy, So that's really in a context of very highly tense geopolitical and political tensions in the region. You would expect a world leader like the US president to come with something really solid, which outline and reconfirms the United States position in the Gulf, in the Middle East, and in the greater regions, West Asia, and of course outlining exactly the intents as far as the Gaza genocide, as far as the Iran nuclear deal, and what it means for the regions, what are the possibilities, and what is it and what it takes to be a real peace breaker, a peacemaker, and his role. Because he portrayed himself as such. So what is its input? His input is to basically normalize relationship with an interim president of Syria, as you described earlier in your introductions, a former al-Nusra, the branch of Al-Qaeda in Syria. So a man that has blood on his hands, and American blood on his hands, is being praised by the US presidents. And that's the story, really. The story is about basically rewarding Saudi Arabia for its involvement in Syria for way past before 2013, where it was probably one of the major contributors, the major investor in harming the rebel faction and various rebel faction in Syria. So you had on one side Saudi Arabia using France, Belgium, to acquire weapons, to acquire ammunitions, and then having even France to organize the transportations of these weapons way into Turkey and of course into Syria. And then on the other side, you got the CIA and the infamous Benghazi story, with, a lot of containers full of weapons reaching, southern part of Turkey. So that's what he's doing. He's basically telling us it's okay. We've achieved our goal, and we're coming here in Saudi Arabia to celebrate this. We've removed Bashar al-Assad. It doesn't matter who's the interim president. It doesn't matter he's a cute guy or he had a tough past. This is irrelevant. What matters is we're controlling this region. Saudi Arabia is going to become a major investor in Syria for the rebuilding of the countries. And they, of course, going to do that with their new pal, because Saudi Arabia now seems to have a very good relationship with Erdogan and Turkey, which will be responsible as well and play an important role in rebuilding Syria. But it seems that all the past has been forgotten as long as the business has been taken care of. So it's really about business, not about Trump business, not about having and securing investment from Saudi Arabia, so that Saudi Arabia or Qatar is going to invest into the United States. That's already done. They don't need a summit to do that. They don't need an investment summit to organize that. This was a complete different task. What it was is about to say, these are our new partners for the Middle East. And we are not announcing it, but if you can read between the lines, this is the emergence of a new security framework for the Middle East. And that's exactly what it was all about, to make this announcement. And hopefully today we'll have enough time to unpack that and trying to understand what it means.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's probably where we're going to go. On the business side, Freddie, as you mentioned, we'll bring this up on screen here. Again, this is echoes of Ukraine, a minerals deal with the Al-Qaeda head, Al-Jawlani. Donald Trump says the Syrian leader, he's going to offer him a Ukraine-style minerals deal and a Trump Tower in Damascus. Trump was, oh my gosh, this is too much. And they're celebrating, in Syria, the supporters of Al-Qaeda are celebrating the lifting of sanctions. So Trump's said we're going to lift sanctions on Syria. The UK is probably also going to invite this terrorist to meet Keir Starmer, like Macron did last week. I mean, so the people that were demanding sanctions be put on Syria for 14 years are now celebrating that sanctions are lifted because Syrians were suffering. These are all the same people that were demanding that Syria be destroyed under sanctions. It was all about regime change. I mean, what do you make about this, Freddie? I mean, on the French side, Macron met this Al-Jawlani, received him on a state visit in Paris. And I mean, as a Frenchman, and I know Marine Le Pen came out and totally thrashed him for it. What were your thoughts on that? And he's going to go to the UK as well. I just see so many problems with this. It sets a very bad precedent. And almost like basically, it's like kind of an insult to all of the soldiers that they pushed out there to fight the war on terror for 25 years. Freddie, what are your thoughts?
I think the common denominator, Patrick, is the fact that everything that is done, everything that is not even pronounced or articulated, is definitely not about the people of Syria. There's nothing in there for the Syrian people. It's about big business. For France, it's basically the logistic hub for CMA-CMC, the big logistic companies. They want to have a predominance. They want to really be one of the main logistic supplier for the reconstruction of Syria. So, and there's other, of course, deal within the defense sector as well. France has been playing, as a major partner for Saudi Arabia's kind of endeavors in Syria. So we've been helping them, Belgium as well, and other countries have. Germany has certainly. And what we are seeing now is that there's a lot of business to be made, because the United States clearly has now give the green light, if you will, that Syria is open for business. That's what it is. We lift the sanction. It means that Syria is open for business. So as far as Macron is concerned, he's not a player, if you will, in terms of an influencer, is what's happening in Syria. I mean, none of the European countries today has a really weight, a teeth in the stake, if you will, apart from being there as a supplier and trying to make a bucks on the way. But what needed to be done, the opportunity that France has really missed, is about really denouncing al-Shara. And it's not about saying that people cannot change. It's simply that, first of all, this is someone that should have been brought in front of in a court, in an international criminal court, for the crimes that he has committed in Iraq, but also the crimes that he has committing during the time of al-Nusra, in Idlib and other places. There's a lot of things, and the United Nations has a lot of information on the Al-Jawlani, but funny enough, nobody talks. Even the United Nations is not bringing back all these dossier on Al-Jolani, and the UN has still not lifted, from last time I checked, is kind of a ban on Al-Jolani. So for me, as far as I'm concerned, as I say, a lot of waffling, a lot of noise, a lot of kind of a show-like, if you will, display during this early part of Donald Trump's trip, with this meeting with al-Shara. But really, what I'm saying is, and the only story that is interesting here is the fact that Israel, first of all, does not agree with the lifting of the sanctions. That's a real valid clue, because that is telling you already Israelis' positions and what Israeli is trying to do with regards to Syria. And then the number two part that is interesting is that the guarantees that al-Shara has provided, the reassurance of Israel's security and his commitment to the 1974 disengagement agreement with Israel. So that's also a very important part. And perhaps the most important part is what al-Shara has expressed during his short conversations on Syria. And he said that Syria could become a vital corridor for the trade between East and West. And that, for me, is the most important takeaway, because that's what it is all about. It is about securing, it is about really bringing Syria under the control of the United States, with Turkey and Saudi's money, rebuilding these countries and projecting basically strength. There is a religious component to that, which is about really pushing the Sunni, if you will, presence in the regions by really fighting and removing any form of influence coming from Iran. We know that the southern part of Iraq and many regions of Iraq, for example, were under kind of domination, if you will, or let's say influence of the Shia influence, if you will. And having Turkey and Saudi Arabia working together is really about bringing this Sunni sphere of influence to remove basically any domination from the Shia in the region. That means at the Lebanon border, that means, of course, beyond Syria, within Iraq itself. So it's a big picture about stability. And of course, the strategic goal here is to stabilize the region, to create a major hub, a major commercial hub, in order to steal, if you will, the road and the corridors that have been put in place by the BRICS, by Russia, by Syria, by Iran, by China, by India. All this is really about to take control of this corridor route. And that's what really al-Shara is saying here. He's saying we will be a vital corridor for the trade between East and West. And if we look into it, and if you look into the maps of the middle corridors, the second route with Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, you can clearly see that they want to unplug Iran completely from these corridors and take advantage. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. I don't know how long this guy is going to be in power. Personally, I think they're probably going to have to get rid of him, because the amount of sectarian violence that's going on right now. The reports we have out of Syria is that as a result, right after Trump's announcement, al-Jolani's militants, bearded militants, are circling Christian villages now, holding citizens at gunpoint, demanding their homes being searched, taking weapons away. They're disarming the population. They're also charging arbitrary taxes now for people to stay alive. This is the reports that we got from Syria in just the last couple of days. So to keep you and your family from not being killed, you have to pay diya.
Yeah.
To this, it's not an organized government in Syria. It's just basically a collection of gangs, sectarian gangs under the kind of Jolani banner. So this is a so-called president that doesn't have a parliament and is not going to have elections either. I mean, that's one of the fundamental problems with what Trump is doing, is that there's always been a historical precedent, even with the United States, that if there's a coup, or if there's a putsch, or something like what happened in Syria, or Ukraine for that matter, that when there's an unelected government, the United States, Britain, France, the UN Security Responsible Committee members would say, when is there going to be elections? When are you going to have elections? Give us a schedule. Is it going to be in 6 months? Is it going to be in a year? In this case, they've waived that. This is why so international law is out the window, of course, but also U.S. and Western domestic general policy for these, how they interface with these regimes, is also out the window. And so this is the problem here. This is not a legitimate head of state. And normally a previous U.S. president wouldn't shake hands with with a terrorist, but in an unelected kind of junta, a military junta, which is basically a terrorist junta, a listed, recognized, designated terrorist junta, that you wouldn't want to publicly shake hands with them, because that would be an endorsement. And that's the big so Donald Trump has crossed a really dirty threshold historically here. And let me just before you go, before I go to you, Freddie, this is posted here. So he just basically, and this is according to Karim Franceschi, who also fought with the SDF forces. So he's got very good contacts in northeastern Syria. So the prisons in Hakka with all the hardcore ISIS fighters, yeah, those ones, 9,000 of them. Trump's basically given the green light for Giuliani to take them over. 9,000 hardcore ISIS fighters. Giuliani will be taking over those prisons now. The Kurds had been keeping those ISIS prisoners there for a number of years. And so they're going to be released. Okay, that's what's going to happen. So Trump has basically given the former Al-Qaeda head the green light to basically, he's given Al-Qaeda the green light to manage ISIS in Syria. I mean, you couldn't make this up. They're celebrating in the prisons. Those are the reports we have, Freddie. They're celebrating. They can't believe their luck. So that's what Trump has just done. Okay, and he probably either doesn't understand what he's just done, or he is just so corrupt, wildly corrupt, that he doesn't care. And if you think about this, that's also going to guarantee U.S. presence militarily in Syria indefinitely. Indefinitely. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. They're partying in the prisons at the moment because they know what it means, and I think to a very small degree of clarity. I think Israel is reading it properly. They understand that these people cannot be trusted, and talking about stability while glorifying a former Al-Qaeda branch leader in Syria, it's just simply a recipe for disaster. Anyone with a common sense and understanding of how these people functions will realize that it's not because you have some kind of a CIA control over this guy, because there's only way these guys could have been turned. It was turned, there's no doubt, but he's not fully turned. Ideology is not something you turn. You can promise, you can provide, you can bribe. There's many ways to get a Giuliani as an interim president in Syria. And it doesn't have to be for the Syrian people, and it's not about pleasing anybody else. It's really about achieving a goal, and that shows how desperate the United States is really to control this part of the world. We go back to the Alfred McKinsey, old heartland regions, and Syria is the hub to control that, to push back the Russian, to push back the Iranians, and to intimidate every single state in the heartlands to not be a partners. This is economic trade. This is economic war that is waged, because you cannot win after what happened in Russia. Clearly, the deal was to destabilize Russia, take over Russia, put a puppet president there, and then after that, going after China. Well, this is not going to happen, clearly. So what is the other way? Well, it's to undermine any effort to control these regions, and any effort for, countries, as I say, from the BRICS, the Global South, anyone to enjoy basically these commercial corridors, so that this part of land, this region, can actually start to thrive, to build up their own economy and stabilize themselves by doing business together. without the presence of Al-Qaeda or ISIS or any of these factions. This needs to be cleaned up. This is what Iran was starting to do. It was starting to fight ISIS, and until ISIS fell in 2019. And this is really about that. And I think Iraq is also pretty much interested in doing the same. The problem is the United States wants to have a pivotal role to control the dynamics in the regions, because they already control now Israel. We can clearly see that this is not Israeli controlling the United States, as many people have portrayed. There is a lobbying things going on, and you can take money from Israel. This is a cultural in the United States. It doesn't mean that the president is going along with the plan. What it means is that he's going for the United States interest, because he understands the BRICS and the idea of all these countries basically trading outside of the dollar will be a major catastrophe for the US economy. So he has no choice but to go to war, and that is an economic war. And the Syrian people, as well as the people in Gaza, have paid the price for this war, because obviously the Israeli Greater Israel project is becoming a failure, because simply Netanyahu cannot be trusted. He's not a reliable partner in the region. And that's what's going on in between Netanyahu and Trump. Trump needs someone that he can trust to stabilize the regions, and not basically lose the plot and go out there, kill 100,000 people, and then next day invade another countries, and then throw a couple of missile Iran along the way. This is just not someone you can trust if you are indeed trying to build stability and peace in the world. So because of that, it is quite clear that now Trump's, by going to Saudi Arabia and delivering the speech that he gave at the Saudi US Investment Forum, basically saying, you are my new partners, and you and I with Turkey are going to basically control and stabilize Syria my way. And Israel is not interested in that, because we all know Israel prefer chaos in Syria rather than a very stable and a kind of a thriving Syria. So there is a lot of mixed part, and that's why a lot of people are confused, because you need to compartmentalize in your thinking, in your analysis. You got to look at the Iran nuclear deal as one thing. You need to look at the Gaza as one thing. You need to look at the tension between Israel and Trump as one compartment, and then you need to look at Syria as another compartment. And as I said to you earlier, what we are seeing here is clearly, and we're going to see it more and more, that's this emergence of really a security framework, which is going to start and going to be built from Syria. That's why Syria is so important, not because of his mining opportunities. His oil is already there, and the US has, pillaged most of it anyway. But the point here is not that. This is a strategic hub, a logistic hub, a commercial hub, a corridor that needs to be secure. If you want to have a chance to derail any kind of project, whether Iran decide or Saudi Arabia decide to go with the IMEC or decide to go within the BRICS, because the BRICS also is very much involved in what you're saying. This is the consequences of the BRICS.
But hold on, but Qatar spent upwards of $700 billion over a 14-year period to destroy Syria, because Qatar wants to, among other competing pipeline projects, certainly they have a gas pipeline project that would have to go through Syria as well. Turkey and other people might be able to get some transit fees from that. But so, in terms of stability, they want it stable, but only for the Gulf partners. So we have Israel on one hand, that also wanted Syria to go, because they wanted Assad to go, and they want Syria to be broken up into smaller countries, because they don't want to have any potential Arab country that might take the side of the Palestinian people. That was the problem with the Assad government, is they supported Palestine.
That's right.
This government, the Jolani government, doesn't care about Palestine. They want to normalize relations with Israel, because that's what the Gulf and the US are telling him to do, and he'll do whatever he's told, because he probably knows he can be killed or liquidated or evicted at a week's notice, basically. Yeah. So the problem is there's a bloody civil war that's brewing, that's simmering right now in Syria. So this guy, this Al-Qaeda leader, is definitely not the future. He doesn't even govern There's 120 armed factions in Syria. He has control of 30 of them. 1/4. He controls 1/4 of the country effectively. So and he's trying to, along with Israel, they're trying to engineer a war with the Druze population as well to top it off. And so it's like so many of these dastardly plots. Okay, clearly Trump doesn't have a clue about anything that we have just said. If he does, he has maybe a surface level understanding of it. He has no idea who and what he is getting into, supposedly into business. But what business is it going to be? It's going to end up, if things continue in the way that they are, Fred, it's going to end up with another civil war in Syria and another U.S. military intervention and ISIS running amok. So and Israel is completely out of control. So while this week looks impressive on paper, there's a lot of problems, a lot of fundamental problems here. And I'm not sure if the people we're talking about have the skill set or these are the right conditions for all these things that they're talking about. I'll just show you one more clip, Fred. And I found this one to be extremely telling here. We'll bring this up on screen. So this is he's mentioned Gaza, but obviously doesn't say the word Israel in any of this speech. It's kind of incredible if you think about it, but that's basically, the SP here. Let's listen to this.
The people of Gaza deserve a much better future, but that will...
Do you see Elon in the back giving it the little sort of little quiet clap? I mean, so Elon Musk hates Muslims. He's openly hostile towards them in Europe. He's calling for, race wars in Europe. So he's sitting there in Saudi Arabia. So they don't seem to care too much because the only color that really matters there is green, right. the color of money. But it gets better. Let's watch this.
But that will or can, but that will.
Hold on. I got to bring you back to this frame here. This is okay. Look at this frame. So we've got Pete Hegseth on the right-hand side. He's got a tattoo under his jacket that says infidel in Arabic. Fred. That's the U.S. Defense Secretary. And then the other one on the right, on the left, that's Pete Hegseth on the right-hand side on the end. And the one in the middle in the suit who looks like he's bored with his hand over his next to his cheek. That's Howard Lutnick. Okay. He's the Commerce Secretary. He is openly hostile towards Muslims and basically declared war on jihad at Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. He is, I don't know if he's a dual national, Israel American, but, that's who they're holding court with. So, and these are two people that are basically enabling and enthusiastically supporting the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. And the Saudis are supposed to be, we care about the Palestinians. But this picture just kind of says it all, really. And anyway, hold on. We'll listen to this comment by Trump.
But that will or can not occur as long as their leaders choose to kidnap, torture, and target innocent men, women, and children for political ends. The way those people are treated in Gaza, there's not a place in the world where people are treated so badly. It's horrible.
So Trump is lying through his teeth there. If you look at the hostages or the POWs, let's say, because most of them are IDF soldiers, they've been released by Hamas, all healthy, happy, high-fiving the Palestinians on their way out. So they haven't been tortured. The Israelis who kidnap 9,000 Palestinians and keep them in a gulag, okay? They've been tortured, raped, killed, starved, and if they can be released alive, they're in horrendous condition. And so Trump is basically lying. He's saying that He's very clever, Trump. He doesn't name names, but he gives a narrative, and you're supposed to guess who he's talking about, but we can kind of work it out, which I think is very dishonest and very deceptive on his part. Or whoever wrote the speech was very careful not to mention Israel in it, but it's a complete lie. And Saudis are just there lapping it up. And I just wonder, nobody is honest about anything these days. Everybody's lying to each other, Fred. Everybody's
Keep the
lying.
lie. You have to keep the lie. You have to keep the lie alive. When you start to lie, you can't keep on lying. That's all you can do. There's nothing else you can do. And these people have no problem doing it, on national televisions or in big events like this. It really doesn't matter. To them, it doesn't matter because this is politics. They don't even consider it as a personal conviction. This is not about something they believe in. This is about business. And this is about taking care of the business. And if taking care of the business means that it is Hamas that has killed 48,000, more than 50,000 people, mainly children and women in Gaza, then let's say it's Hamas, and let's not mention the word Israel, almost like Israel is not, involved at all with this genocide. But that's what he's paid for. You take money from the Israeli lobbyists, you're going to have to shut up. You're going to have to keep the lies going. That's what he's been paid for. And Saudi Arabia doesn't care.
He can't stand there, and he would have got applause if he stood there and said, we are completely, we are shocked and horrified by Israel, the killing of 60,000 civilians in Gaza. And this is a terrible loss of human life, and etc. It's a massacre. We want it to end. My administration is working to try to achieve a ceasefire, even if it's not going to happen. At least as a politician, this is the thing, Fred. At least as a politician, since the beginning of politics, you just at least put the show on. At least pretend like you care.
At least.
Even if you can't make it happen, at least it sends the message to the people that at least somewhere in the back of your mind, behind all the arms deals and all the oil deals and all the mineral deals, that somehow maybe you care way in the back of your mind, and you'll get to it. But they don't even bother with that these days. That's the thing, to me, I think, is the big change, if you will, culturally, in politics. And Trump is just kind of this new era of complete nihilism and just complete disregard for humanity on a scale, but couching it in this, I'm a man of peace. Death and destruction follows this guy wherever he goes. It's extraordinary. And this, to me, this week is just, to me, it's the cherry on top of the whole circus. Okay. He is Donald Trump. Follow me on this. Follow me. Donald Trump has finished the life's work of Hillary Clinton and John McCain in legitimizing Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and allowing Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the bearded head choppers to have their own state, Islamic State, right in the center of Sham, Syria, the Middle East. That's what Donald Trump has just basically put a stamp and completed Hillary Clinton's life work and John McCain. Donald Trump, this is the ultimate neocon exhibition this week. And George Bush would be proud of him. He waved the sword in Saudi. He did the whole thing. So that's kind of what it is, Fred.
Yeah, that's what it is. And more importantly, I hear a lot of colleagues and journalists that are saying, "Oh, we're confused. We don't understand what Trump means." It really doesn't matter what he says. As the number one with Trump, what he says doesn't matter. It's actions and fact. That's what matters. You look at people's action, what they're doing, when they're doing it, who they're meeting. Okay, that's action and that's facts on the ground, and that's what you need to look at. The rest is, it's just a distraction, right? It's a show, because this is Donald Trump. That's a showman. That's someone that's going to be there to entertain you. And for 1 hour, it's going to obviously get a nice paycheck here from the organizers to speak for 1 hour there, with a complete assembly of delegates from, top GCC countries, top investors, top money. So he's got a platform there to promote, how great the United States is, how great the foreign policies of the United States are in the Middle East. When anyone's with a bit of knowledge and doing a bit of digging will clearly understand that the biggest destabilizer of the Middle East is the United States, followed by Israel, its mercenary states, if you will. That's all it is. And if there is business to be made, if there is economic corridors to be secured, that's what I say. I always go back to corridors, and people will understand eventually, because it's more and more popular in the discourse where people are starting to understand that this is the big pictures. We're talking about macroeconomics here. We're going to talk about a shift in policies that is going to affect, this 21st century, really, on how business is going to be conducted, what is going to be your liberties, what is going to be your freedom within the 50 years to come, because the uprising, the global uprising is coming. A lot of people around the world are unhappy. The loss of confidence in your governments, in your institutions, when it starts, there is no way to end it. So the only way they can do is to keep the lie on trying to secure and save America's, which is facing a major, tremendous trade deficit with China and some other countries in the world. And it's facing a major debt that it will never be able to repay. The idea that they will repay the debt is just simply impossible. So America is basically forced to go out there with whatever it has. And the only thing it has, it's a mighty military army and a stew of money to basically sponsor states. It's not the best states to sponsor. I mean, you have a genocidal state, Israel, and you got a very poor record as far as human rights is concerned in Saudi Arabia. And these are your partners, for peace and stability. I mean, you got to hear it. You got to just say, okay, that's all I know. That's all I need to know. Tell me who you're going to be friends with, and I'm going to tell you what kind of person you are. And that's exactly what the US is doing. It's telling you who they are. They don't care about killing 500,000 children in Iraq just on the false pretense. It's not a big deal. So having 50,000, Palestinians killed, children or not, it's really not a big deal for neocons. Really not at all. So when I hear, and I saw on Twitter accounts yesterday, I blasted Eric, some other journalist guys want to be saying that, oh, what a great thing, the neocons going to be pissed off. I'm like, are you dumb? Are you absolutely out of your mind? Don't you really understand what's going on here? You can see it in Ukraine. I mean, Trump is washing his hand with Ukraine. It's not me. It's not my war. What do you mean it's not your war? You're the one that brought the war there. You put a 900,000 strong Ukraine military onto the teeth, right? And you build CIA bases all across the border of Russia. And you say this is not your war. Get out of here.
Yeah. And he sent lethal. He was the first president to send lethal weapons to Ukraine. Obama didn't even do it.
Yeah.
So Trump did. So Trump helped to do all the preparation for the war that was coming. That's true. And Trump's also responsible for this. Abu Donald, I like to call him. So he saved Jolani in Idlib.
That's right.
Trump did. So there was a counteroffensive. Syria, Russia, Hezbollah, the Iranian Quds forces were going to take Idlib and flush these 30,000 head-chopping criminal terrorists out. And Trump intervened with all sorts of threats, and then got Turkey to do a tag team job. Turkey promised to deal with the terrorist problem in Idlib, and they managed to call off the counteroffensive. Okay, there were threats involved by the U.S. as well, and Donald Trump bragged about this. He bragged about it, Freddie, and so that happened, I think, in 2018 and 2019, early in the kind of presidential campaign. I don't know if I have this clip, but you need to hear this video clip. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but let's play this. This is okay. I think I have it here. I've got it. Lo and behold, I have it in the archive. This is Trump bragging about saving Jolani and Al-Qaeda in Idlib. Okay. Abu Donald bragging about his great work in Idlib.
And Syria is a mess. And I was responsible, and I hope it stays that way, when I put out on social media a few weeks ago about Idlib province. I said, don't do it. And I'll tell you, it happened where I was at a meeting with a lot of supporters, and a woman stood up and she said, there's a province in Syria with 3 million people. Right now, the Iranians, the Russians, and the Syrians are surrounding that province, and they're going to kill my sister, and they're going to kill millions of people in order to get rid of 25,000 or 35,000 terrorists or enemies of theirs, but I think we can call them terrorists. And I said, that's not going to happen. I didn't hear of Idlib province. And I came back to New York, and I picked up the failing New York Times. I hate to admit it was the New York Times, but it was the failing New York Times. And I opened it up, not on the front page, but there was a very big story. I said, wow, that's the same story that the woman told me that I found hard to believe, because how would anyone do that with 3 million people? And it said that they were being surrounded, and they were going in and starting literally the next day, they were going to drop bombs all over the place and perhaps kill millions of people in order to get 35,000 terrorists. And I put out on social media and elsewhere, I gave Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, everybody these orders. Don't let it happen. I said, don't let it happen. That doesn't mean they can't be selective. They can't be, go in and they've got to do what they've got to do with terrorists, assume they're terrorists, but don't kill millions of people. And it stopped. You saw that. Nobody's going to give me credit, but that's okay. That's okay, because the people know. I have had more Syrians thank me for that. This was about 4 weeks ago I put that out. I said, they're surrounding a city of 3 million people. They're going to start bombing the city. Don't let it happen. And I meant it, too. I meant it. And millions of people have been saved.
There's no city in Idlib that has 3 million people. Okay, he's saying that the province of Idlib has 3 million people. Okay, debatable at that time. But and then he's saying, oh, you can be selective and hit the terror. Of course, they were going to be selective. Syria's not going to kill its own people, just like Russia's not going to kill its own people in the eastern regions in Ukraine. Okay, so Trump is just completely BS. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And the people thanking him were all the regime change lobby. Okay, this is all the sort of Clintonites, McCainites and Obamites. They were thanking him because he basically saved Al-Qaeda.
That's
Abu
right.
Donald. Abu Donald saving Private Jolani in Idlib, 2018. I'm going to make a movie about it. It's so glorious. What I did was so great. It was so great. A lot of people loved what I did. They loved it. They loved it. I saved Jolani, saved 30,000. We can call them terrorists, some bad guys. So I saved them. Abu Donald. That's what they call him in the Middle East, Abu Donald.
That's why they're going to give him a tower, the Abu Donald Tower. That's what's going to happen.
God almighty. Oh, my goodness. I don't really know what to do with this guy. I really don't. Between his daughter telling him to do cruise missile strikes in Syria on fake chemical weapons attacks, to this now with this whole sort of, we'll bring this thing up. I mean, this is something your department, global affairs research area on 21st Century Wire, al-Sharar, Trump's new made man in Syria. It's kind of like what it is, Fred. It's like the mafia. Is he a made man? I don't know if he is a made man, but it kind of looks like it now. But they could dump him, couldn't they?
Some people shouldn't wear a suit, and he's one of them. You want to see him with the keffiyeh and the guns and going out there doing with the machetes, going around and chopping a couple of heads. Look, this is not someone that can fit in that suit. He doesn't have the acumen. It's just a face for the apparatus. They needed someone, and there was no one available, no one that they could find that could provide, that could listen, and that could obey. It's all about obedience. It's about responding positively to whatever comes out of the United States, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or Turkey. It doesn't matter. These guys wanted to do something, and they had to obviously polish his records and revamp and invent a new man that does simply not exist. This is not a new man. This is a new made man. There's a difference. And he's made man. That means that Israel cannot touch him. And that means that anyone goes after him. That's what he's doing by meeting 30 minutes only with Al-Sharia. He's telling, my guy, don't touch him. He's made. He's got now, power. And Saudi Arabia is out there. They're going to bring the money. The Turks going to bring the brinks. Everybody's going to bring technology. And then we're going to go after Iraq and the rest of whatever reminiscence of Shia presence in the regions. And then we're going to cut them off from any kind of influence or sphere of influence in West Asia. That's it. Israel could, may, will, may not play a role in achieving this goal. It depends on what's going to happen in Gaza. Literally, this is what's going to happen in Gaza, because staying on the Mount Hermons and the southern part of Syria, it's only going to be a matter of time before this is going to become a problem, right? So what I really found unbelievable is that Saudi Arabia and Turkey have managed to not kind of go after each other. They've not been, having this rivalry that they've had for so many years. I mean, I know Saudi Arabia bought a lot of drones in 2019 and 2023, sorry. And then they got this relationship going back on track, if you will, with Erdogan, because Syria is a catalyzer, if you will. So that's the only reason why this relationship is working, because there is something in there for both of them. They can agree upon that Sunni kind of ideology that they want to push into the into Iraq and Lebanon. And then, of course, they can see plenty of money and plenty of opportunity to create a major commercial hub. And there's a lot of money and a lot of inflow of money from Qatar as well. So it's all a win-win situations, but it doesn't solve the major problem. The major problems, in order to have a complete security in the region and stability, it is to address properly the Iranian nuclear program, which means that you need to understand also the security needs for Iran. Iran has no interest in developing a nuclear weapon. That is invention. It's not interest. It's not even in the ideology. It is not even in the in the fatwa that is part of Iran belief with regards to nuclear weapon. They don't want a nuclear weapon, but if you force them, and if Israel continue of developing its nuclear capabilities and deterrence capabilities, while they're not allowed to develop even a normal, nuclear civilian programs without basically being threatened of being nuked or bombarded by the United States, then something is wrong. You don't get stability by doing this. What you do is to say, whether we completely denuclearize the region, that's when Israel has to open the door and say, look, that's it, time, game over, or whether we say everybody is allowed to, and then we can have a proposal like the one the Iranians have tabled during the last meeting in Oman, when they say, why don't we have a nuclear consortium between regional actors, powerful actors in the regions, and having basically a complete nuclear programs put on an island, of an Iranian island, which
hold that thought before we go to that nuclear question. I'm just going to backtrack because we missed a very important part, which you've made a note of here in 21st Century Wire. Mr. Trump has urged Mr. Sharar, the so-called president of Syria, to join the UAE as well as Bahrain, Morocco, normalizing relations with Israel under the U.S. brokered Abraham Accords. This is what the White House press secretary posted on X. Okay, right. Caroline Leavitt. So so basically this Al-Qaeda leader is going to normalize relations with Israel. I mean, that's so if that's achieved, and then I don't think Israel's going to leave the Golan Heights. Not as long as Hezbollah is still there. But that means this war is not going to end. Israel's not going to stop. They may have contained Hezbollah through the regime change in Syria, but it doesn't mean it's over. And so they're not going to stop. The Greater Israel Project, Freddie, that's what this is about.
That's right.
I don't think they're done with Syria, Israel, quite frankly.
Not at all.
Yeah, go ahead. And we'll get to the nuclear we'll pick up that nuclear point, but just on this point, Fred, this normalization, this is seen as the main thing. I personally don't think that this is the guy. It's almost like this is kind of like a Zelensky situation. You've got this precarious non-president president in power, and Trump's doing deals with this dodgy character. It's very much like Ukraine. And how much of this stuff can stick, really? Your thoughts?
Well, at this stage, as I said, Israel has no interest in keeping peace and provide stability to Syria. It's not in their interest because of Netanyahu's real Greater Israel project. The idea is, as I said, is to control all part of West Asia and the part of the Gulf, all the way down to Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and part of Egypt as well. So if you look at really the map, what they're saying is that we control the Mediterranean. That is absolutely no doubt. We are the master of the Mediterranean. That's why we want Morocco. That's what we were happy to destabilize Libya and help with the destabilizations of Libya and so on. You see, the Mediterranean Sea is the sphere of influence of Israel. West Asia is also part of it, but really the Mediterranean Sea is where they want to see. You can see them having ongoing conversation with Cyprus, so they're starting to really spread, and it doesn't matter if it's going to upset Greece, if it's going to upset Turkey, they couldn't care less. But what they would love to do is to create this kind of and as I said, I was speaking to a friend of mine about this yesterday, and he told me, he said, how long do you see this happening? And I told him, it's when Turkey starting to get upset with Israel, or when Turkey starting to get upset with Saudi Arabia, which is unlikely, I think, but with Israel, and when they're going to see that Israel's real agenda, and I think they're aware of it, is about destabilization and create chaos, and making sure Damascus is a never safe place, making sure that all this southern region is not going to be thriving, going to be able to invest a lot of money in port, in logistics, and all that kind of things. Israel just can blow it out, sabotage, get it down, make sure it never happens. And what you're going to do? Well, someone's going to push back. So what's going on at the moment, as I say, it's compartmented until it's not. Right now, it's compartmented, so everybody understand that it needs to approach each debate, each negotiations without bringing other cases onto the table, because it would be unmanageable. You cannot negotiate the nuclear deal while addressing the Gaza issue. It's just simply two different subjects, and you need to compartmentalize that. And I can tell you this is exactly what's happening. But to a certain degree, all these problems are going to start to emerge, and they're going to explode. And they're not going to explode during the negotiation table. They're going to explode on the ground, right? Because we don't really know what Iran is planning. Iran is not talking. Iran is not even threatening. Iran said they will retaliate. They never retaliated.
And Fred, what about these guys? They just hit Ben Gurion Airport with 3 missiles today, the Yemenis. So Ben Gurion Airport's been shut down. International carriers are not flying, a lot of the major ones. And I saw the first missile hit. The crater was 30 meters deep. 30 meters deep. And the forensics said that there's only 20% payload on the explosives. So the Yemenis are basically sending warning shots to the Israelis. But what about the Iron Dome, I call it Larry David's sling, not David's sling, Larry David's sling, and Arrow 2 and whatnot. It's all for naught. It's not happening. So many plates in the air right now. The U.S. and Israel have so many plates in the air. The Gulf states are in a much more stable position, obviously, but the U.S. and Israel are not in a stable position, and so too many things in the air at the moment. And we just got a couple of minutes left. I want to bring you back to that nuclear discussion, Freddie, and of course, this is the post up here: Persian Gulf, Iran revives its old joint nuclear consortium proposal, which is what you were getting to before. We were talking about normalization, Syria normalizing with Israel. But just quickly, we've got a couple minutes left. Freddie, walk us through this. What's the important points to know here?
Well, it's an old story, if you will. This is something that has been out there in kind of Iran discussions as far as deciding what will be the best way, what would be acceptable for various countries and regional powers, in order to develop a uranium consortium, which basically will allow the enrichments of uranium for medical purposes, for whatever purposes it is required, but really in an open window basis, if you will, open door basis, where international moderators, IAEA and so on, could come at any time they want and check out what's happening, what has been enriched for what purpose. So really with a track record, something traceable, something absolutely transparent, and so that everyone can enjoy, like Saudi Arabia desired. I mean, Saudi Arabia has asked for nuclear capabilities for many, many years, which the United States has forbid. But at this moment in time, everything is possible because of what's happening in Israel. So this proposal, if you will, at this moment is being revived. And it was actually tabled during the last talk in Oman last weekend. And they said, well, look, if you don't trust us, that's fine. We understand that. But how? You cannot just come here. We're sovereign countries. You cannot just tell us what we can do and what we cannot do, as long as we comply with international regulations. So if Israel is allowed to have an unacknowledged, not so secret nuclear program that is completely off the book, surely our proposal is far more reasonable, because we offer to put all this enriched uranium and this plant and plutonium enrichment plant on an island that belongs to Iran, but we leave it completely open to all the partners which are interested in enriching uranium for their civilian nuclear programs, and then being able to have the IAEA to look into it and making sure everything is transparent, and as he said, it is. So that will be a fair proposal, because that propose, as I say, a real fair deal for everyone, in terms of the United States being the police in the Middle East for way too long, in the Gulf, and always telling the people what you can get and what you can't get. And Iran is just sick of it. And they're saying, look, you can't just keep on doing this. And Iran is challenging other nations in the Gulf to say, look, you're allowed to have that. There's no need for, if we come together all at once, it's going to be very hard for Israel to say no. And it's going to be very hard for the US to say no, of course. And that's really what's happening here. So we don't know how serious this has been taken up by the US administration. From what Trump is saying, which again doesn't really matter what he's saying, but he's clearly saying that they're not allowed to have a nuclear weapon, they're not allowed to have a nuclear program, and so on and so forth. It's just not feasible. And the idea that they're going to go to Iran and bomb Iran and destroy Iran, they can even destroy the Yemenis, the Houthis. Al-Qaeda is getting them and punish them over and over. And we have Donald Trump on the stage here in Saudi Arabia claiming that they've done 11 or 1,400 strikes against Yemeni, and the Yemenis couldn't take it anymore, so they capitulated. What a bloody lie. This is just a lie. It's absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. There's no evidence of any of that. There's no statements coming out of Yemen saying that, no, that's inventions to score a point. But what the facts are saying is completely different. You got the bombers coming out of Diego Garcia and heading home. Okay, and you got the Truman, right? The Truman carrier that is basically taken back and got out of there because he was about to be taken down and sunk.
So damaged, it was damaged, and they lost two FA-18 Super Hornets off the side of the. I mean, did any of them get shot down? It's possible. They would never admit it, of course, because that would be like a game changer. That would bring the Trump presidency down. If an F-18 was shot down by the drones is one thing, but manned aircraft, that's another thing. But just on that nuclear question, just before we go here, we'll bring this up on stage. And this was tweeted out here by, I think it was, Trita Parsi. We'll bring this, we'll let this roll in the background. But interesting point here, everything that you said, Fred, think about it. Security architecture for the region. Saudi wants it to happen. Here he's saying we need this cooperation. We need this deal with an Iran nuclear deal. So the Arabs, the Gulf states, they're pledging major direct foreign investment, DFI, into the United States, trillions between the UAE and Saudi. And so this nuclear deal has to happen. So they have leverage over Trump now, actually, on Israel. Because Israel doesn't want this nuclear deal to happen. They want to attack Iran, right? So they want to take out their nuclear facilities, all of them. or they want a deal where Iran has to denuclearize their whole program, and that ain't going to happen. So, but the real leverage here is not with the U.S. Trump is now leveraged by the Gulf now because of the money involved. And so this is Trita Parsi from Responsible Statecraft here. Saudi Foreign Minister Farhan says U.S.-Iran nuclear deal, quote, would remove a huge burden of risk in our region and open up significant avenues for even greater cooperation, et cetera, trade, investment. They're going over the head of Israel here, if you can see. So there's incentives that have been created to not go the Israeli way. Is that why the whole media is now admitting that Israel has done a genocide? Did you notice this week? Did you notice? There's a whole change in the narrative now, right? It's obvious. So is that because Fred, global capital wants to move to the Middle East, but what Israel's doing is bad for global capital? Have they become a liability?
Yes,
Finally?
100%. 100%. I think when you analyze, the macroeconomics and the geopoliticals move and what we can see on the ground as far as the U.S. policy is concerned, foreign policy is concerned, when you put it together and you analyze it, you can clearly see that there is a little bit like Europe has become irrelevant in terms of the negotiations between Russia and the United States with regards to Ukraine. Well, it's a bit the same here. What you have is an irrelevancy because there's no much more card that Netanyahu can play apart from going back to war. But if he goes back to war, that's the end of it. And that's, I think, kind of an intelligence way for Trump to have basically get back at Netanyahu, not doing it in a front way, in a front manner, antagonizing manner, just saying, well, this is the geopolitical game we are playing. And if you cannot provide, if you cannot play along and stabilize and do what we want you to do, then why should we have you as a partner in the region when we have a much more easy partner to deal with that is far more richer than you are, has a lot of money, ready to invest in the entire regions to do that? It's a no-brainer. And then, of course, this expansion, as I say, into Lebanon, into Syria, creating chaos there and maintaining this instability is completely going against Trump's policies, if you will, and plans. So is Israel becoming irrelevant? Yeah, it's becoming irrelevant on the international stage, but it's also the Netanyahu administration that is becoming irrelevant on the domestic stage as well. Because if I have to do a prognostic, a forecast on what's going to happen next, well, I would say that Netanyahu would have to be forced out one way or the other, because nothing can be achieved until Israel remains in the middle and is trying to convince the world that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, without repercussions, and they are still the mercenary, the military might in the Middle East. That time is gone. And I think the war, if you cannot win the war against Hamas, if you cannot, the US cannot win the war against, the Houthis, and you have nothing to stop this genocide, there's nothing you can basically hook yourself on and saying, this is solid, I can grip myself with that and I can get traction. Israel can have no more traction on any domain at this moment in time. This is why I believe I wouldn't even be surprised that within months to come, we start to really talk about the recognition of the state of Palestine. That is the only way the Trump's policies in terms of what he's trying to achieve can work. If he doesn't have that, he will never have Saudi Arabia. There's not going to be a Palestinian state in Saudi Arabia like Israel and Netanyahu was talking about. This is never going to happen. And no countries
what Trump was talking about, we got to move them to Egypt. They're going to go to Jordan. We're going to build beautiful flats for them, beautiful apartments, but not in Gaza. It's terrible in Gaza. Too much death, too much destruction. Yeah, with U.S. bombs. I mean, it's just, I mean, come on. The videos they released with him and Netanyahu drinking Mai Tais it's disgusting. But it's hard to know with Trump, Fred, what he's saying today. Is it going to be relevant on Monday? Because it's just pivot, flip, just on and off. No, we've got a deal. I've done a deal. And then all of a sudden there's no deal, with Ukraine. So there is that sort of unpredictability of whether any consistency or whether any of this is going to stick. We'll wait and see, because that's the big challenge of the Trump administration: is can they actually finalize and make something happen? The speeches are great. The performative aspect, of course, is great. The headlines are constantly, we're chasing them around, trying to figure out, oh, what's Trump going to say or do next? Totally unpredictable, but yet completely unreliable as well. So the U.S., I don't see any coherent strategic policy anymore from the U.S. We're in a gray zone right now. We don't know where the regional partners are trying to move in and maybe do things for themselves, as you said, Fred. And I think that's great, but it's also in that vacuum of instability, some things can happen that are unpredictable as well. So it's difficult. It's difficult to predict, but we're going to wrap it up, Fred. We can go on, but we're going to be I think I'm going to be on the mother of all talk shows with Galloway live on X in about half hour. So tune in on X.
I'll listen to that. That should
George
be
Galloway's channel or whatever. Freddie Ponton, really appreciate you joining us. Lot to think about. Obviously, this stuff's all in flux, but go to 21stcenturywire.com for the latest analysis, and you're doing great research, great work as well, up on the website as well, Freddie. So we appreciate the sort of material you're sharing with us and the readership as well, which we're also putting out on our social media. So again, conversation's still going, folks, and great to have you on, Freddie.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Patrick.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Freddie Ponton. You can see his work up at 21 Wire. Also follow him on Twitter. We've got at Freddie_Ponton. We'll put that on the bottom of the screen right now. Follow him on X. Just go to at Freddie_Ponton. You'll see him there as well on X. So follow him there on social media. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We've got to go. But again, yeah, I'll be continuing the live stream on the mother of all talk shows on the live streams as well. So catch us there, and I'll see you guys on Sunday. We had a very good broadcast on Sunday with the Sunday Wire just this past couple of days ago. We took a week off before that. But thank you guys for hanging with us. I was nursing an injury, which unfortunately kept me off camera for a couple of weeks, but I'm back, and I've got to wear these glasses for the moment, really to cover up a scar that just goes around the rim, but it's healing up well, and hopefully we'll be back to normal soon. But anyway, take care, you guys. This has been a fantastic midweek wire, and if you like what we do, if you like the type of content that we are putting out, the type of analysis, we're doing these two main shows, the midweek and Sunday as well, midweek wire and Sunday wire. If you like what we do, please consider supporting us. Go to donate at 21stcenturywire.com. You'll see at the top of the menu. Just click on the link on my X profile, take you to our website, donate and support us. Better yet, subscribe and support us as a member. Be part of our monthly membership. That's one way you can help us consistently. It's very inexpensive, but it goes a long way. We need more support. We need to do more programs, more content, and rolling out more features, as well as a new member site, which we're currently working on. So we got a lot of great things planned. We want to do it. We need your help to make that happen. So donate, subscribe, all different types of, even crypto, all different features are there on the website. You can support us there. So we have great journalists and a great team like Freddie and others that are working with us. So we want to keep this going strong. It's a very important time in history. So we'll do our best to pull together the best news and analysis we can every week. Check out 21stcenturywire.com. And again, Sunday Wire, that's our podcast. You can catch me there. That's on 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time on Sunday, 12 till 3 Eastern Standard Time, United States, and everything else in between. So you can catch us on the Sunday Wire there. So look forward to seeing you all there in the chat as well. We don't really have time to run the comments during the midweek. We might add that feature. We do that on Sunday, though. We do review comments coming in from Rumble and YouTube and stuff. So we do that interactive segment, second half on the Sunday Wire We're not doing it on the midweek yet, but we will start doing that very soon. So we appreciate your engagement in the chat as well. So thank you very much, you guys. All the best. That's all we've got time for today. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. This has been real. Hope to see you guys soon, and we'll catch you when we catch you on the streams. All the best.